Welcome to the Sensory Empower podcast. I'm Bethany, your host. I'm a holistic occupational therapist with over a decade of experience in supporting individuals helping to transform their world through sensory empowerment. This podcast is your guide to the transformative world of sensory storytelling, holistic tools, and empowerment strategies. So excited to start talking a little bit more about mirror neurons. And it's really kind of cool stuff just thinking about what mirror neurons are. So when we think of that beautiful reflection of a mirror, we have someone looking at us, and maybe we're giving the example of doing something, and that other person starts to imitate that exact behavior. And so I just find it a very intriguing subject because I think there's such a cool correlation where we can kind of start to reflect about how it can support with co-regulation. And so when I think about mirror neurons, I just kind of think about how could this be something that we can keep in mind that can help us start to have a reflection of regulation, so our ability to kind of maintain more of that calm state. So as we're thinking about this topic of mirror neurons, co-regulation, and this really cool impact that can have on our ability to connect with ourselves, but also our ability to connect with others. I'm really excited to explore a little bit of that kind of behind the scenes science, where mirror neurons came from, maybe provide some practical strategies to help you feel a little bit more empowered with some knowledge. Maybe there might be a few moments of a little bit of reflection that comes through of mutual connection with others, and maybe times where this example and this copying or this ability to support someone else, maybe a modeling or that mirroring of an emotion that might be more supportive. So I always love to think about when you're walking down the street and you think about, imagine someone smiling at you as you're walking down the street. Those mirror neurons in your brain are firing off in a response to seeing this smile. And it's this connection that gets built. And it's really beautiful. And I love to smile very, very frequently, even on days where I'm maybe feeling a little bit tired. I really notice that, and through mindfulness training, like we would do smiling meditations at the end of our time together in my mindfulness training. And that smile position really does, even though it might feel fake at first, like it really does start to deeply impact our ability to bring in a true smile and bring in a moment of delight and a moment of joy, a moment of connection with others. So as we think about mirror neurons and kind of this science behind things, these are really cool brain cells. They have really had some cool research coming out. They were first discovered in the early 1990s by a group of Italian neuroscientists. And they really talk about how we can understand and empathize with others. And so as we kind of study and then get to know and then start to maybe make these connections and correlations between mirror neurons and co-regulation, we think about when we perform an action, we are observing someone else performing the same action. So it's like we're looking at someone, another human, and there is an actual mirror mechanism that allows us to experience the emotion or the action of others as if they were our own. And so that key phrase really sticks out to me as just a curiosity of how things can kind of come together to reflect on that foundation of empathy, that social connection, that sense of kind of happiness and warmth as we are smiling, we're seeing someone smile in response. It's really powerful. It's very, very cool to kind of think about that. I also find it very beautiful to consider how we can conceptualize this as a bridge of understanding and having a really beautiful shared experience with another person. So as we move on a little bit more into co-regulation is really this beautiful process in which we can help each other manage and modulate our emotions and physiological states. So it's really a huge, important component to relationships, our ability to have interpersonal connection, where one person's calm and regulated state can help and support another person's calm and regulated state. And therefore, we've got then two humans that are able to remain a little bit more grounded and centered. Think about a time where you were feeling overwhelmed or stressed or grieving, maybe anxious, maybe a close friend or a loved one offered you a comforting presence. This calm energy really can support regulation in those moments of need and really support a sense of balance and safety. So it's not only is co-regulation beneficial for emotional well-being, but also for this overall sensory regulation. As we attune to each other's states, we can really start to support and manage sensory overload moments and finding more ease in our day-to-day interactions. And I feel like this is a crucial piece that I educate families with when I am working with families and working with families online. When I'm discussing the importance of conflict resolution related to a sensory profile or a sensory profile difference. And when we get to reflect upon the possibility of different sensory profile needs, how those can impact our ability to get along well if one person is seeking out different input and the other person is really overstimulated by that input. This concept of coming from a different angle, such as the sensory profile lens angle, I feel like it's really crucial, especially with sensory sensitivities, to just give grace and give a compassionate understanding. And it really can support this presence of another person to help with that grounding and help with that co-regulation piece. So this connection with ourselves is so deeply intertwined with mirror neurons and co-regulation. When we are attuned to our own needs and our own emotions, we are then be able to help others and connect with others in really beautiful, meaningful ways. This self-connection involves practices like mindfulness, self-compassion, and sensory awareness, which can help us stay present and responsive to our internal states, which is also interoceptive awareness. So I kind of want to pause for a moment and have just a little bit of a reflection about how we can practice some of these activities that can help us bring awareness to the mirror neuron activation. So when we think about activities that involve mirroring, it might be dancing or practicing yoga, but it could be so much more than a group class. Those are just some examples of where we might be having that imitation of a smile. So I gave the example earlier of walking along the street and seeing someone smile at you and having that stimulation in your brain of a mirror neuron and mirror neurons helping to reflect back maybe a smile or maybe just a shift of energy into more of an open state. When we think about breathing and breath work and mindfulness and how those facets could play in, I deeply love leading Sensory Self-Care Membership, which is a monthly online group community where I get to practice and observe mirror neurons getting activated very frequently. There are many moments where we get to practice breath work, where we get to practice EFT tapping, and many times there are somatic release opportunities where I might see some yawning or some energy release starting to happen in one individual, and even through an online forum such as Zoom. It's so cool to see how that can kind of trickle along into big smiles, big yawns, big releases of energy for many of the members on the call, even just through the screen. And that to me is so cool and so fascinating. And there's such a curiousness of in times where virtual world was such a thing in the last, chunk of time in our world. The ability to still have a activation of a mirror neuron through a screen, I just I do celebrate that the body has been able to accommodate to have things virtual, but also a celebration that it is not a hindrance in that way, to where we're still able to build this connection. And I see it when I get to support and teach and provide these opportunities for sensory education. I see this curiousness. I see this community growing and starting to really support each other and celebrating sensory wins. And I I just start beaming with joy and deep gratitude as I practice this beautiful self-compassion and this co-regulation in a group setting such as sensory self-care. So if this is of interest to you, I would love you to join. I am really thrilled to continue to discuss neuroscience and sensory education in hopefully a very digestible way, along with teaching how to practice mindful moments and how to practice emotional freedom technique, how to utilize breathwork techniques and somatic release, and always opportunities for a Q&A. So curiosities, asking questions, talking about sensory profile differences, and that kindness and compassion that can come forward. So if you have a calling, please go ahead and reach out to me. You can send me an email at bethany@sensoryempower.com. We'll go ahead and talk a little bit more in depth on how we can build some of these opportunities into daily routine and how it can really start to maybe explore some of those concepts in your life where you get to practice some of those sensory awareness, mindful awareness, but also that mirror neuron activation. So as we start to settle into a little bit of a mindful moment here, I want you to just have an opportunity for maybe 2 or 3 minutes in this podcast to dive into a little snippet of what it might feel like to practice a mindful moment in sensory self-care. So I invite you to go ahead and settle into this space. If you're sitting, go ahead and just slow your body. If it is safe for you to do so, go ahead and close your eyes if you feel comfortable, or take a gentle gaze. And bringing awareness to your breath, taking a full, big, deep inhale through your nose, allowing your belly to rise. As you exhale slowly through your mouth, letting go of any tension, releasing any extra energy that no longer serves you. Go ahead and repeat this once more on your own. Full inhales and full exhales. Now move to tuning into your senses. Begin by focusing on the sounds around you. Noticing the subtle and distant sounds, and allowing them to come and go without judgment. Bring your awareness to the sensations of touch. Notice the surface that you're sitting on. Notice the textures of your skin. Maybe what clothing you're wearing. A tightness or a looseness. And bring your awareness to smell. So if you're indoors, just notice any scents in the air around you. And if you happen to be outdoors, taking in the fresh air and any natural scents around you. As you come into this moment together, starting to wiggle your fingers and your toes, and begin to open your eyes when you're ready, taking in your surroundings, and staying in this calm state. And just notice the colors, the shapes, and the movements around you. This mindful moment exercise can help you feel grounded and connected to the present moment, enhancing your sensory awareness and promoting a sense of calm and ease within. So I invite you, just with curiosity, to notice if you feel any shifts in your body. Maybe a slower heartbeat, maybe more of a deeper belly breath, maybe longer breathing, deeper breathing. Maybe your shoulders have dropped ever so slightly down instead of a tightness or tension. And just reflecting with gratitude. I congratulate you for taking these moments to pause. The power of the pause is just so wonderful to have opportunities to practice. So just a little practice session within this podcast today. And I just encourage you to reflect on this power of the pause and how this mindful awareness can help you with co-regulation. And as we reflect on this topic of the power of mirror neurons and this deep connection we can share with ourselves and others, I really feel like it's so beautiful to start to have these practice opportunities to start to reflect upon how we can support in community. And if that is walking down the street and maybe having a smile on your face, or moving along and just reflecting of maybe a posture that has been modeled, and it's just an intrigue. So I just invite a curiosity as I move through my world as an occupational therapist, but also as a human who really enjoys and is very fascinated by human behavior. I feel like it is such a beautiful opportunity to start to reflect on how we can start to have these mirror neuron systems and have these reflections of compassion, self-compassion, and our ability to really have this kindness towards ourselves and others. So I thank you so much for your time today as we reflected on the power of mirror neurons, dove into a little bit of the behind the scenes of what they are and how you might see them present in your daily life. We talked about co-regulation, and we practiced a cool mindful moment opportunity where we got to cultivate this sense of calm and this sense of pause. And I really invite you to continue to cultivate these practices. I feel like the more we get to practice the power of the pause, it really can help support a more balanced and relaxed day, filled with empathy, understanding, and sensory empowerment. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you felt this episode helpful, please share it with someone else who might benefit from these insights and strategies. And remember, you have the power to create meaningful connections and enhance your well-being through mindfulness and compassionate practices. Until next time, stay grounded, connected, and take good care of yourself. Thank you for joining me on this sensory adventure through Sensory Empower, the podcast. Remember, empowerment begins with awakening your senses. Subscribe now and embark on a journey of self-discovery and transformation. Until next time, may your senses guide you towards a life filled with peace, joy, and empowerment. Because true empowerment begins with embracing your senses.